The circle graph shows how Shelley allocates her monthly salary of $1,800. We have a portion for savings, for rent, utilities, and food. Calculate the amount allocated for rent. Now, in order for us to determine the amount allocated for rent, let us look at the circle graph. The circle graph, here we have the rent for rent, it says 35%. And so 35% of what? Well, 35% of her salary. And so we have that the amount allocated for, so we have the amount allocated for rent is going to be 35%. 35% of 1,800. Of means to multiply, and we take 35% and we express that as a percentage. And so we have 35%, which is 35. So we take 35% and express that as a fraction, all right? So we have 35% expressed as a fraction is 35 over 100, and we multiply it by 1,800 over 1. Next, we take 35 and we multiply that by 1,800, and when we multiply those two, we get 63,000. And we have 100 multiplied by 1, and 100 multiplied by 1 is 100. Next, we divide. 63,000 divided by 100 is actually 630. And so that means that our answer here is $630. Next, our goal is to calculate the degrees of the sector representing savings. So savings account for 13.33% of her salary, but we want to figure out the degrees of the sector representing savings. And so we're going to say 13.33% of 13.33. So the degrees, so we'll say the degrees with an S, the degrees of the sector representing savings, right? Savings with an S as well, is 13.33% of 360. And the reason why we're using 360 is because angles around a point add up to 360 degrees. We know that one revolution is 360 degrees. And we know that angles in a circle add up to 360 degrees. And so angles around a point, 360 degrees, one revolution, 360 degrees, and angles in a circle add up to 360 degrees. So we have to say 13.33% of 360. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take 13.33 and we're gonna convert that into a mix. This is a mixed number already, but we're gonna convert 13.33 into a improper fraction. And so what we're gonna do, the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna say, okay, well, 13 multiplied by 3, then we add 1, all right? Now what is 13 multiplied by 3? Well, 13 multiplied by 3 is 39, all right? That's 39. 13 multiplied by 3 is 39. Now we add 1, we have 39 plus 1, and 39 plus 1 is 40. Okay, 39 plus 1 is 40. And so that means that we're gonna put as our numerator for our improper fraction, we put 40, right? Next, we keep the same denominator, which is 3. So what did we do to convert this mixed fraction into an improper fraction? Well, we multiply the whole number, 13, by the denominator, and 13 times 3 is 39. Then we add 1. Add 1, that gives us 40. And so we have 40 over 3. So what we actually have is 40 over 3%. All right, 40 over 3. And we have to multiply that by 360 over 1. Now, what is 40 over 3%? Well, that means that we have to divide this fraction, 40 over 3, by 100. So we have 40 over 3 divided by 100 over 1, okay? Now, what we have inside the bracket is we're multiplying two fractions. I'm sorry, but you're dividing two fractions. So how do you divide two fractions? Well, the first thing that you do is you keep the first one. So you keep the first one, you switch the sign from a division sign to a multiplication sign, and you flip this particular fraction. So you put 1 on top and 100 at the bottom. So KSF, keep, switch, flip. You keep the first fraction, you switch the signs, and you flip this fraction. Now we have 40 multiplied by 1. And 40 multiplied by 1 is 40. Then we have 3 multiplied by 100. And 3 multiplied by 100 is 300. Next, we have 40 over 300 multiplied by 360 over 1. So we have 40 multiplied by 360. And 40 multiplied by 360 is 14,400. Next, we say 300 multiplied by 1, and that gives us 300. So we have 14,400 divided by 300. And 14,400 divided by 300 is equal to 48. And so that means that the degrees of the sector representing savings is 48 degrees. Next, we have to determine, or we have to calculate, the amount that Shelley spends on food, the amount that Shelley spends on food. And so how do we do that? Well, let's determine the percentage for utilities first before we even get to the amount that Shelley spends on food. Now, what is the percentage for utilities? Well, what we do know is the degrees for utilities, and the degrees for utilities is 96 degrees. And so we say 96, and we put that over 360. So 96 over 360. We use 360 because angles in a circle add up to 360 degrees. One revolution is 360 degrees. And so we have 96 all over 360 multiplied by 100 over 1 because we want to convert this fraction into a percentage. Next, we multiply 96 by 100. And when we multiply that, 96 by 100, we get 9,600. Next, we say 360 multiplied by 1, and 360 multiplied by 1 is 360. Furthermore, we divide 9,600 by 360, and that gives us 26.6666 and more 6. And so what that actually is equal to is 26 and 2 over 3. Okay, 26 and 2 over 3. Because 0.66666 and continuing is 2 over 3. And so if you got, when we divide 26, when we divide 9,600 by 306, when we divide 9,600 by 360, what we actually got was 26.666666 and continuing on and on. But 26.66666 continuing on and on is actually equal to 26 and 2 over 3, because 2 over 3 is equal to 0.66666. So that means that we have 26 and 2 over 3. I would not put the percentage sign here. All right, so I wouldn't put this percentage sign here. But we know it's a percentage because notice the heading. The heading says percentage for utilities. So percentage for utilities is 26 and 2 over 3%. Now, what we have here, we need to figure out now the percentage on food, okay? So we know what the percentage for savings is, that's 13 1/3%. We know what the percentage is for rent. And now we know what is the percentage for utilities. Now we know that all of them added together in terms of their percentage is 100%. And so this is 13 1/3%, this is 35%. Utilities is 26 and 2 over 3%. So in order for us to figure out the percentage of food, what we have to do is we have to add all of the percentages, 35%, 13 1/3%, 26 and 2 over 3%. We add them all up. And when we add them all up, we're going to take that sum and subtract it from 100. So 35 plus 13 1/3 plus 26 and 2 over 3 is actually equal to 75%. So we have 100% minus 75%, and that gives us 25%. So the percentage on food is 25%. Next, we have to determine the amount that Shelley spends on food. Currently, we know the percentage that she spends on food, but we need to figure out the amount that she spends on food. And so the amount that is spent on food is going to be 25% of 1,800, and of means to multiply. So we have 25 over 100 multiplied by 1,800 over 1. And so we have 25 multiplied by 1,800, and that gives us 45,000. And we have 100 multiplied by 1, and that gives us 100. So we have 45,000 divided by 100. Again, we have 45,000 divided by 100, and 45,000 divided by 100 is going to be equal to 450. And so that means that the amount that Shelley spends on food is $450. And that's the answer to this question.